I'd still be on my way out. But most of that's just because I wouldn't care. If I got too many slips, I'd get in.
Blame him, don't blame me. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Perkins.
Here.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Here.
Councilmember Best.
Here.
Vice Mayor Turner.
Here.
Mayor Croft.
Here. Let's go to the second item on the agenda, presentation by Dr. Robin Sabota, Airport Director, regarding the current status and future plans for the Prescott Municipal Airport. Hey, good evening, how are you?
I'm doing very fine,
We're really
Mayor.
excited about the airport. We hope it really goes.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor and Council and Town Manager. I really appreciate you inviting me here to speak. And so I'll go ahead and go through the presentation and kind of tell you what's happening because it is very exciting right now. So, you know, we had our inaugural flight on August 29th with our new carrier, United Express, operated by SkyWest Airlines. When they bid the route, they actually competed against 7 different carriers who all submitted bids to provide service at Prescott Regional Airport. I think it's amazing that they saw the potential in the community, and we thought it was going to be very, very good response. They had bid it with a 44%, the load factor expectation, and it has far exceeded that, so I wanted to share that with you. So here's the load factors up here, and I thought maybe you'd like to see what's happening over the last several years. This is these are the airline loads. If you look at this column right here, in 2015, this is when we had Great Lakes Airlines. In the entire year, we only had 3,323 total boardings or enplanements. A boarding or an enplanement is somebody getting on the plane. A deplanement is somebody getting off the plane. So this is just people getting on the plane. In 2016, we moved up to 3,454, and by 2017, they had changed the gauge of the airplanes, so we did get a few more folks on board, so it was 5,850. The reason this is important is this number actually dictates federal subsidies for us to be able to do capital improvements at the airport. In 2018, this is the enplanements we had, which was roughly 1,200 before Great Lakes went under, and then we had almost 5 months of no service, and then we launched that service in August, and look at these numbers. In September, we had about a 62% load factor, so that was about 1,696 enplanements. Look what happened in October. This was a record for the history of Prescott Regional Airport in that we had the 2,270 people get on board. In November, right now we're projecting it's going to be about 2,134 people, because it's one less day in the month, so you have 100 less seats. So that load factor is actually about 77.3%. Amazing load factors. And here's the projection for December. 2,325 if it's a 75% load factor. If we get to a 78% load factor, 2,418. That means our total for the year is as high as 9,923. Now, the reason this is really important is at 9,923 passengers, we will be entitled to $150,000 a year for capital improvements. And just to give you a perspective, we spend $120,000 a year for crack sealing alone. If we make it to 10,000, we will be eligible for $1 million a year in capital improvement, but furthermore, in building the terminal, which I'm going to be discussing shortly, it will be eligible for up to $20 million in federal subsidy for the terminal.
Wow.
If we do not get to 10,000, we're eligible for $200,000 toward the terminal. Huge difference. Now realize these entitlements come from an airport and airway trust fund. This is not taxes. This is user fees paid by the aviation users of the system. The Airport and Airway Trust Fund was set up in 1976. It is controlled by Congress, but it is comprised of user fees. So the source of these funds are the user fees. They're not federal tax dollars. So I'd like to just show you over here, this was just 1 year ago, the projections for enplanements at Prescott Regional Airport. It was projected we would hit 40,000 enplanements by about 2031. This is where we are going to be this year at 10,000, and this is next year. We are going to hit, if they add just one more flight, which we've been in discussions about the possibility, we will be right here within 2 years.
It's amazing.
Which is really amazing when you think about it, because when we came out with this projection, a lot of people are going, pie in the sky, no jet's ever going to survive here. Yeah, it's doing just great. Now, I think what's really important is a lot of people go, well, what does that mean for the quality of my life, you know, like air flights over my home? And I wanted to point out that, I don't know a lot of people if you realize, but we have around 260,000 total operations a year. These are mostly general aviation operations because we have so much flight training going on. So we have 5 different flight schools, and over here at 260,000, that puts us at about the 40th busiest airport in the United States. There are 19,000 landing sites in the United States, close to 550 commercial service airports, and we're in the top 40 in the United States. So if you want to look at what the total number of operations, that's an aircraft taking off and landing, there's only 1,460 of those 260,000 operations. So the air carrier is roughly 0.5% of our total aircraft operations. We only have 2 flights out a day and 2 flights coming back. And even if we have 3 flights a day, it's not even going to be a measurable difference. So I hope people aren't fearful about air service. It brings so much in benefit with so little impact. And that aircraft climbs out and up pretty quickly, a lot higher than the low-performance general aviation airplanes, which linger around and stay in the pattern for an extended period of time. So because we want to get to that 10,000, we're in the Fly Prescott campaign right now. You can see that on Friday night, we hit 7,000 enplanements. We're hitting about another 1,000 every 2 weeks. So that's pretty amazing when you consider that many people are getting on board the flights. So if you happen to be on the airplane when that 7,000th passenger happens, there's a little contest because we don't do lotteries. We only can do a contest. So you have to answer a question. And so the first winner was Becky Wynn, and she lives in LA, but she's going to be flying back, and she got 4 tickets to a Northern Arizona Suns game for sometime during the whole season, and 2 tickets to Meals at Rose's. So I've heard a lot of people have booked flights for December. We may see you in the gatehold room, and you may be one of the prize winners. And the top prize is 2 round-trip tickets to LA or Denver. We anticipate it's going to be in the last week in December that we're going to hit the 10,000 campaign, but I think we're going to make it. Now, the reason this is so popular is when we picked SkyWest, who eventually co-shared with United Express, and it's United Airlines that's operating out of the airport. We looked at this. This is the migration patterns into and out of Yavapai County. In teal, you have the people moving in. In the salmon or kind of orangey color, you have the people who are moving out. And we have a 60% net change of inbound migration where more people are moving in than out. What we looked at is we looked at the total sales of tickets, airline tickets in 2017. And did you know that there was 1,200,000 airline tickets that were purchased within 90 minutes of the airport last year? So what we did is we looked at what the best situation was for service, and what we found out is a double hub model going into Denver and LA permitted our passengers to reach 91% of those destinations they flew to in 2017 in 1 stop or less. In fact, you can go to LA, and in 1 stop, you can be at Heathrow. So you can be around the world, which is really neat. When you go through Denver, you have up to 450 possible connections on United Airlines and the Star Alliance. And through LA, you have as many as 250 connections. Within 3 hours, you have over 100 connections between the 2 airports. So they do banking with airlines, and you are going right into the terminal with United. You're not going to a regional terminal. You're going into the United gates. So you go into Denver, you go into the United gates, and you stay in that concourse. If you go into LA, you go into Terminal 7, you're in the United gates, not down at the old place where you used to take the little white bus. Yep, you're right there. So the neat part is we are in a region, and this is a regional resource, and that's why it's so important, and I'm so glad that you invited me here, because we see this as being a very important regional effort. This in kind of the purple is City of Prescott. This in blue is Prescott Valley. Up here is Chino Valley. And this box right here represents what's referred to as the FAA's disclosure map. It shows you where the primary overflight of the aircraft are when they're in the pattern area and going in and to out of the airport. So what we tell people is this is posted on the real estate website for the State Department of Real Estate. And we want to let people know, because I'd hate to have somebody buy a house and be right underneath the airport and not realize that there is overflight with 260,000 operations a year. Right here is the crosswind runway, and some of the most frequent noise complaints I get are the people that built right here. And they said they didn't realize there was an airport. Because the home builders apparently, they said, didn't really let them know. So when the crosswind runway is in use, there's an aircraft flying over their house every 3 minutes. And it's further exacerbated by the fact that if you have higher terrain like you have here, when an aircraft is climbing up and out, in rural areas, aircraft are supposed to stay 500 feet above the ground. In urban areas, it's supposed to be 1,000, but in rural areas, it's 500 feet. There's one exception, in the act of takeoff and landing. So what's happening here is this is about 100 feet above airport elevation, and an aircraft is taking off here, and when it's hot and high in the summer, what ends up happening is the performance of the aircraft isn't as good, and these aircraft are very close to these homes. What's hard for me is that I heard that this was originally industrial zoned, and it got converted to residential use. So I feel bad about that. So the one thing I'd like to communicate, if it's, if I have the opportunity, is as you're making development in this area, consider there may be aircraft overflight, and consider protecting the investment, because usually your house is your single biggest investment. So we want to let people know that this airport is here. Now, this airport wasn't just an overnight success. We've been working on this for, golly, about 4 or 5 years. We've had strategic planning goals. In 2014, the goals were actually established to be that we're going to lengthen the runway, replace the terminal, and achieve long-term tenancy for the U.S. Forest Service. And we've already achieved goal number 3. We would like to lengthen the runway to 10,000 feet. I do want to point out that that's not for general aviation aircraft, and not doing it won't stop the 260,000 operations a year. What it will do is it will prevent the air carrier from being able to take off fully loaded in the summertime when it has to take off toward Granite Mountain. When it has to take off this direction, it has to presume that it's a single engine departure, like you have an engine out. And if so, it needs a longer runway to do that. And if it doesn't have that extra runway length, that air carrier, not all the general aviation traffic, but just that air carrier, those 2 operations a day, they will not be able to take off with everybody on board. Now, you pay a $50 ticket, and some people were real happy because compensation was in the hundreds for people to voluntarily get off the plane. That happened in August and September when it was hot. A few people had to get off the plane, and they were given compensation to do so, so it was voluntary. But the concern I have is as we get back into the summer months, if we don't look at lengthening that runway, our air carrier may not be able to seat everybody who needs to go. The other one is replacing the existing airport terminal, and that ends up being a little bit of a little bit of controversy. The terminal was built in 1948, and it's an amazing piece of history. But the problem is there are some issues. This is the actual aerial view here of the terminal. The original square footage was 4,400 square feet, and then we added on a little TSA space, and then we added on a big TSA wing. Well, what happened? Well, first of all, I want to point out that it's actually considered a safety issue. This terminal is now in the area that's supposed to be protected. This is the runway out here. This is taxiway Charlie, which is a parallel taxiway to the main runway. We are going to have to move this out because our critical aircraft requires a 400-foot separation to allow aircraft to be able to deviate. And I'll give you an example. Last week we had a light aircraft that landed on the runway, and they had a brake problem, and they literally landed on this runway, and they had to go across to the equivalent taxiway on the other side and ended up on the taxiway. There were no injuries. There was no damage to the aircraft. They went through this infield, but if there was a building in their way, that can be a problem.
Yeah.
So we do need to move this terminal building. Actually, there are 4 different protected airspace surfaces that this building transcends. So the FAA has indicated that they support us replacing this terminal. Has anybody gone through the checkpoint and seen and done this with it's called an AIT to get screened? You have to put your hands above, okay? We were offered one of those by the TSA. But we couldn't accept it because this floor cannot support it. It would fall in through the floor. So reportedly, they gave that AIT to Sholo that has 9-seat aircraft. And our 50-seat aircraft have to go through the old magnetometer. And our population has a lot of people with devices in your arms and legs. And instead of being able to target where we need to search, we have to search the whole person, which really slows down the process because our floor can't hold the security technology. I could go on, but there are so many different limitations. Don't try to flush too many toilets at once. Okay. Our baggage claim is outside. That's because if we put 1 more square foot on this building, we have to completely retrofit it with all new fire suppression because there is not fire suppression. So we have to build this. So we do have an outdoor bag claim. It kind of looks like an exercise yard at a prison, doesn't it? And isn't this one for my wallet? It's a beautiful picture here. This is the outdoor area where we have to store the sterile bags. So unfortunately, it's really been a great service to the community, but we are at the end of its useful life. One of the things we ran into over the holidays is that we ran out of parking. We actually got down to our last 5 available spaces on the whole airport. So what happened is we actually provided shuttle service. People were parking over on this side, and they came around, and we provided them shuttle service. But the FAA has approved us to push out the fence here. So if anybody's been worried about parking, I just want to point out that we're adding 60 additional spaces here, and it's actually right up next to the terminal. So the good news is we're going to be able to make it through the holidays, the next group of holidays. We are actually moving this fence starting next Monday, and it should be done by Friday. So that's all free parking, which is really neat. So I mentioned the terminal, and this is where we are at in the design process. We're in what we call 30% schematic design. That's going to finish and go to council for approval in December. And then in December, they're going to approve it to move forward to the 30 to the 100% completion of design. We should be through design with our new terminal by May. And this is where it's going to go. So this is the old terminal that I just saw. This is that extra parking I just pointed out. And this is where the new terminal is going to go with 2 gate positions. And check this out. Look at this neat access road up to the town of Chino Valley. Isn't that great? So that's what you'll be doing is folks will be coming down, and let me show you how it looks. It's actually going to come down off the deep well roundabout. You'll be able to take that and come right into the airport, enter here, and it'll go right down here. So if we look backwards, that's where you come into the airport, and you come around this roundabout. Now, we wanted to save as many hangars as possible, and once we built this roadway system, we lost our general aviation access through here. So this second road right down here is a taxiway. So that aircraft can taxi in here and access these hangars. But what that means is everybody, if you're used to coming down McCurdy Drive and going into the terminal this way, you will actually have to turn the corner and go up. But all the lucky people from the town of Chino Valley are just going to come right down here. Okay? So we built you guys a special roadway to come in. And this is actually now going to be considered the main entrance to the airport. So that's how important we see the 12,500 citizens up here are, is you have your own entrance right here. So this is the long-term, is it more than 12,500? Exactly. So this is the long-term, this is when we go to 4 gates. Don't you love the jetways? Not yet, we're not at jetways yet. But this is 4 different aircraft being able to operate simultaneously, and we built the terminal so that it can expand pretty quickly if we need to. There is some talk of the possibility we could get over 50 to as much as 100,000 enplanements within 3 to 5 years. So here's the new terminal. It's kind of neat. This is the air side, and this is kind of a bird's eye view of land side over here with the curb and the parking, and it's really cool. And this is the way it's going to look when you walk up, and it's kind of neat because it's got sort of the red rocks, and then we're going to have other regional themes inside that'll really look at all the different communities around us and the importance of remembering the regional role that we play. And I wanted to share, oh, you said, is the internet up? Good. So this is when you walk in. It's kind of pretty, isn't it? Mm-hmm. You walk in, and this will be like the front entrance. This will be your TSA area. The fireplace is a real favorite in the old terminal, so we're going to have a wall-to-ceiling, floor-to-ceiling fireplace, and it's going to be a 2-sided fireplace. And over here, there's going to be a landside door, so you can walk in past the fireplace, and you can sit outside and watch the airplanes take off and land without going through security. This area over here is gonna be a snack bar. It's not gonna be a full-service restaurant, because the old terminal building is going to be repurposed as a restaurant. This will be the bathrooms, and as you turn the corner, there's the ticket counters. And we're making this deeper right now, so this vision is expanded a little bit. We're making this about another 10 feet deeper. And this is a vestibule out to the curb, so it'll be really easy to come in. And then right down this hallway, let me go back here. Right down this hallway is the baggage claim area, and it's a big carousel and a place for skis or whatever else for large baggage. So it's really neat. It's about 18,000 square feet. Now, the interesting part is we were approved by the FAA to build this for 25,000 people. The day we open the door, we will exceed that amount. But this is what the environmental does permit us to do, so this is as far in as we get. And that's it. So that's what's happening out at the airport.
Do you have any questions?
I do not.
Robin, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming with your
Thank you.
presentation.
My pleasure.
Please
Thank
keep
you.
us up to date as things happen, so.
Absolutely, and fly Prescott. The fares are as low as $50 to LA. SkyWest Airlines United Express for the first 2 weeks of December, removed the 3-week in advance notice. So there are still $50 fares next week and the week after that to go to LA. So
That's
really great.
You're doing a great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
I tried to book to Denver and it was $550 each person.
I'll be there.
I didn't even, I just stopped. Forget it. It was a Christmas.
Okay, let's go on to item 3. Presentation and discussion regarding Center Street duplex, a 2.8 acre site located 0.25 miles east of the southeast corner of West Center Street and South State Road 89 intersection. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property from SR 2.5 single-family residential, 2.5 acre minimum, to MR-1 multifamily residential, 1 acre minimum, to allow development for 9 duplex properties or 18 individual residents. Owner of record, Jared Buck. Alex, Mr. Lerma, good evening, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm bringing you this item as a study session item. Staff has met with the applicant several times since late 2016. This item went before the Planning and Zoning Commission as a study session item, I believe, back in March 2008, based on comments that that the applicant received from P&Z. They went back, revised their site plan, and we're bringing it as a study session item today. At this point, staff doesn't have a recommendation for council, so we'll just proceed with the information of the project. So the property is located a quarter of a mile east of the southeast corner of State Route 89 and West Center Street Road. As you can see here, is located directly south of Chino Valley High School. The property is access to West Center Street Road. The property is approximately 2.8 acres with a zoning classification of 2.5, single-family residential, 2.5 acre minimum. The applicant is submitted their zoning application and are requesting an MR1 zoning in order to develop the property as a desire. So the project consists of 9 duplex properties resulting in 18 individual residents. So here's the conceptual site plan that the applicant has submitted. As you see here, we have a private driveway going north and south and turning in the west direction here for the turnaround. Site infrastructure will consist of underground utilities. The applicant initially proposed a private drive of 24 feet. After comments from P&Z, they came back and are now requesting 26 to 28 feet width of the private drive with road curb, gutter, and sidewalk. They also added additional guest parking. They went from 6 guest parking spaces to double that to 12 parking spaces now, guest parking spaces. The applicant is gonna be, as far as water utilities, here's another, conceptual elevation plan. So the applicant, again, as far as infrastructure, they're gonna have an on-site water distribution system serving, on-site water production facility consisting of a well pump and water storage tank, which will provide, water services to each unit. As far as sewer, the applicant will be connecting to town sewer with a 12-inch sewer main. So the applicant is here, or any questions that you have of staff as well?
How far are we away from town water with this property?
The applicant, this area is served by Prescott Water. I believe they have water rights towards Prescott, but enough only to serve 2 houses. Frank, do you know how?
There's City of Prescott right across the street, school.
Yeah.
That's,
Mayor and council, of not having my map with me, I'm just working off of my head, but I think town water is pretty far away from there. Up 1 east,
right.
a pretty good ways, and maybe all the way up to Juniper past even 1 north, so probably a mile or more.
The high school has Prescott water?
Yes. Yes.
And a combination of Prescott water and wells.
Okay, thank you.
On the
Yes.
parking,
Go
the
ahead.
additional 12 or 12 spaces,
parking
is that
spaces.
for all 18 units?
Yeah, that's guest parking.
Okay.
So each unit has about 4 parking spaces, 2 within the garage and 2 on the drive. And
Is
that's
this
future.
going to P and Z?
Back in March.
As a study session item, yeah.
Study
At
session.
this point, we haven't gotten through the citizens review process, meaning
Okay.
we haven't even had the,
Any
neighborhood
questions on
meeting
this
yet.
side?
No,
Vice Mayor?
I don't see any conflicts.
No, I'm okay right now.
Any on this side?
No, I think it's very nice.
I like what I see
Yeah.
so far.
So far, it looks good.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for the information.
Traffic and water. That's
Do you have
nice.
anything to say, your project folks?
Basically, there's a similar one on Serenity.
Why don't you come up front? Please.
Jared Clatterbuck, the property owner. Been working on this for a couple years. I met you guys a while back. But, yeah, so, I mean, there's a similar one behind Olson's on Serenity. They have commercial up front on that one. I didn't really see the need for that. I do see the need for this. I've been in real estate about 3 years now and construction before that. So probably gonna maybe even build it myself as well. But yeah, just a nice, more personable type rentals. They're gonna be rental income. You can't sell this off as separate or anything like that. And then property manage it locally and stuff like that, just like they do with the one on Serenity, I think. I tried to contact the guy for some information. He didn't give me much. Cause I know he's got the tank and the well and the whole system going on there too. Which this has got a great well. It's already installed with the pump and everything. So just a nice, there's such a demand for it with people moving, local people, moving up in the world. First time, kids getting out of their house, trying to get their first rental to then buy later. There's just a big demand for it. And I like the 2-car garage, backyard on every one. I don't think it's gonna look as tight as this portrays. Once you get out there and see the property, I think there's gonna be a lot more space and stuff like that than it actually looks on paper. But I don't know, just been working on it for a few years and
Is it,
ready to get started.
is it gonna be gated like Tom Holiday's?
I mean, that's a simple thing. Yeah.
I was just curious.
I didn't, not to begin with, I don't think, but yeah.
I was just
mean,
curious.
Yeah. If it deems it and people are like, yeah, well, they want it and maybe everybody, you get it going and you can obviously do this in phases and start, with the 4 main ones up front, which are the easiest builds
Sure,
anyways.
sure.
And then work your way back. And what they did on Serenity, as it got popular, they did those 2 stories. So you could do like some cottage 2 stories in the back with the garage below, because that little wedge down there is a little skinnier. But we can visit that later as it moves forward.
Sure.
But as far as a concept, I think that looks good with the green space, water retention, and there's a lot of space in there, and I think it'll look nice, and it's a perfect location, semi-commercial area, so.
Yes.
And then at this point, you're contemplating being the builder?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. course.
All
Are you
right,
gonna
thank
warn
very much.
everybody about Friday nights at the high
Of
school?
course I will. I'll say, look, go on your front porch and watch the football game.
Right?
Half the people that are going to live there, if not more, are going to be going to school there. I mean,
It's good, it's close to school.
exactly. So
Young folks.
definitely,
Anybody else?
No, I think,
How many total acres is this?
it's almost 3. 2.85.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sounds like a good project. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 4. Consideration and possible review and discussion of regarding rosters for council subcommittee and entity appointments. And what I'm gonna do essentially is, if you'll get that out, we'll walk through it and see who's gonna do what. See, what you would like to do and who's on it right now. We'll get this one first.
That was the easy one.
Which one?
This one?
Okay.
I've talked to, Councilman Miller came to me and would like to be vice mayor, so I intend to put his name forward for vice mayor on next meeting. If anybody else is interested, let me know, but if not, then, I'll put his name forward. Let's go on to subcommittees. Appointments, myself, Mike Best, and Ron Turner. Anybody else interested in appointments that can't do without it?
Good to me.
Okay, let's go on to economic development.
Kinda.
Myself is, but the chair is wrong. Annie Perkins is the chair of economic development. Myself and Corey Mendoza. Anybody would love to be on that? That's not on there? I would step off if somebody would.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm not. Are you guilty?
Huh?
Anybody? Okay, we'll keep it as it is. Finance, myself as chair, Cloyce and Corey. Anyone that's love to be on finance? Okay, we'll go on with public safety, Mike, Annie, and Jack. Any changes there? UDO update, Lon, Cloyce, and Corey. Lon, the chair, any changes there? Water and utilities, Lon, Corey, and Jack. Any changes there? Okay, that's the way it stands. Let's go on to the next place. Upper Verde River Watershed Protection Coalition. Former Mayor Chris Marley was the person, and Lon Turner was the alternate. Lon, you want to step forward to being the,
I can do that.
okay, and who's we need an alternate. Who else is in the Utilities Committee that wants to volunteer to be the alternate? Before I volunteer you.
That's a vice man's job.
He can, he's the chair.
He's the chair.
The new vice mayor.
He's sick
Okay.
that day.
Councilman Turner will be the representative. Who else is in that committee?
Stop your mouth.
Jack and Corey.
Corey, would you be the alternate for that?
On which one, Upper Verde?
Upper Verde?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Thank you,
Council-
Corey.
Councilman Mendoza?
I like you more now.
I'm not sure he likes you more, Jack. B, UPRWPC Technical Advisory Committee, Town Engineer, you're stuck with that, Town Engineer. And who else you'll have to find somebody for that Town Manager as the alternate. North Arizona Municipal Water Utility Association, Mayor Morley was, Councilmember Turner.
You're gonna get moved over again.
Mr. Miller, would you
What?
be the representative on that water?
Okay, I don't know, have a clue what to do, but yep.
Well, okay,
If I remain being the alternate representative on that, then I get to tell Jack what to do since he doesn't know.
You always have.
I would like to tell him what to do too, but it
He
doesn't.
won't listen to you.
Corey, would you be the alternate on that? Since you're on a utilities committee?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. Groundwater Advisory Council. Mayor Marley was the rep. It says position appointed by governor is not tied to the town.
Yeah, we can't change that one.
Okay,
Unless.
we'll just let that go
Okay.
till they decide to change it.
You can change the alternate right now, but that's,
You okay with the alternate in
Does
that?
anybody know how active, cause I haven't been talking to Chris, do you know how active he's
Greg.
been in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can find it.
Good.
Can we just leave you there as
Yeah, that's
alternate?
fine.
Okay. Let's go on to Simpo, Councilman Best, I'm gonna leave you on there.
Sounds good.
And Councilman Mendoza, you wanna be the alternate, or do I appoint somebody?
No, that would be good. I like it.
Okay. Simpo Technical Advisory, the town engineer, sorry, Frank, but, and you'll need a alternate. NACOG, I'm the person on NACOG, and whoever the vice mayor is going to be my alternate.
That's
Jack,
not fair.
you volunteered, I'm sorry.
You didn't tell me all the rules before this.
Yeah, so Great Arizona Mayors Association, Gamma, I'm the primary, and the vice mayor will also be the alternate for that. League Resolutions Committee, I have to go to that. And guess who's the alternate? The vice mayor. See, you volunteered. Yavapai Regional Medical Center, Council of Electors, I'm the primary. Does anybody interested in sitting on that committee? That's the council that elects board members for the hospital group.
I wouldn't mind doing that.
Okay, let's put Councilman
Kelly.
Cloyce,
Kelly,
Mr. Kelly.
Over here.
as the representative.
As
Oh.
Okay.
as the alternate.
Oh, as the alternate, okay.
Yeah. Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Kelly is primary. Secondary, who wants to be second? Chamber of Commerce,
I will.
would you? Thank you. Councilwoman Perkins will be the alternate. Arizona Risk Management, you're gonna continue on that, town manager?
No, it says we got
Actually, it's Laura,
Laura,
Laura is gonna be.
or is it
And who's the alternate?
town manager.
Laura is the alternate.
town manager?
Yeah, it's
Switch.
Cecilia and then
Cecilia, you're the primary, or is Laura the primary?
You used to be.
And then I asked Laura,
You
and
got
she
crossed
thought
out.
she was, so.
Who typed that?
You want me to do
So
it
do
for
you
you
want-
too?
Do I make a decision, or are you gonna make one?
We could, we'll work it out.
Okay, discuss it and let,
Yes,
yeah. Now, you got plenty of time, so it's no problem.
well,
G-Prep,
don't.
Cecilia, you wanna continue on that? Or do I appoint somebody? Should be an elected official, but it doesn't have to be. You wanna be? I think you've attended most of the meetings and you know what's going on pretty much. And Councilmember Best, you wanna be the alternative?
Oh, I can do that.
Okay.
I can help her.
The combined trust, then Laura is in fact that, and then you're the backup for Laura. Fire district, Councilman Miller, you're a fire district, and Councilman Best, you're the backup.
Yep.
Prescott Regional Center Planning, I'm the primary, and Councilman Best. Anybody would like to be the primary on that? That's the planning
I
organization
think Mike
for
does.
the airport.
Mike does.
No, I don't have time. My softball gets in the way, because I know these meetings. I went to the
Ms.
first one.
Perkins, would you like to be involved in that? Do you have time?
No.
No. Would the mayor like to be involved in that? I guess he will be.
Hey, I'll volunteer if you need somebody.
Why don't we make you the alternate,
Okay.
okay? And then Yavapai County Unified Emergency Management, that's police chief, is he gonna continue there? And then probably Lieutenant Chapman will be his alternate?
Yep.
Okay, does that cover that pretty much?
Yeah, the only one you missed was, I think, yeah, the NAMWA Technical Advisory, D.
What
But I-
letter was that?
that was
D.
Gee, town
D.
engineer though, right?
Robin.
No, it's Mark Holmes.
No, I don't have his name on
And
my
then
list.
town
I
engineer.
have an issue with that since he's a consultant. I'm not sure he's.
Which one? She said G?
Right here.
D.
Why don't you make a recommendation, town manager, who's, pardon? That is your recommendation. Hmm. Let me think about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I know he's a knowledgeable guy, but since he is a consultant, and he could disappear.
You read all the way to the right one.
Pardon?
This is position typically filled by staff members and/or technical community members.
Yeah. So we'll talk over it here.
I don't know many other engineers that would.
We're not gonna get Steve involved in any of this? Okay.
I should.
Any questions? We pretty well covered that, and we'll decide, but the town manager and myself will decide on those that we haven't
Okay.
identified. Any questions about it?
No.
Okay. That's the way it will be. We'll come in on December 11th. We'll swear in, and we'll go and also identify the committees that we're gonna have. Okay, let's go on to the next item. Council may vote to recess study session, hold an executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431-0383 for discussion or consultation for legal advice with the town attorney regarding the non-subdivision land splits. Do we need to go into executive? Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion, we go to executive session?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we're going to executive session. Okay.
Do you have snacks?
Cecilia, the PD meeting's tomorrow, okay for me to go? Tomorrow and Thursday. I'm planning on being there. I'm planning on being there.
Andrew, we'll call you.
Unless you don't want me there, I won't show up.
Actually, we can transfer him.
That's because Jack wasn't
Yeah,
there.
we'll just call you.
I wasn't I wasn't supposed to go.
Yeah, he's like, I see you. I see you. What's the reference here?
Pass losing here.
Do you see that I'm tired, Jack? Is that what you see?
Can we go now? We have adjourned from executive session. We listened and discussed an item with with our attorney. We made no decisions. I'd like to go on to the next item, which is adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there- All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Me.